Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show. And we tonight are, of course, rather anxiously awaiting tomorrow's summit meeting, the first one of President Trump in his second term, meeting with Vladimir Putin at a very critical time, which, I think he's absolutely right. Within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting, he'll be able to tell whether or not there'll be a ceasefire, which is all that he's seeking right now, or not. And that will tell a lot about whether there are any future meetings, how much further it goes, how long it takes, and then what action he takes afterwards. I don't know that we're going to know that until the meeting is over, unless he does a Ronald Reagan and walks out of the meeting, which worked really well for President Reagan, didn't it? Looked like a terrible defeat at the time, and it turned out to be probably one of his best and greatest victories. It was a key part of liberating Eastern Europe. It changed the dynamic completely between the two of them. There are any number of things on the agenda between them with regard to Ukraine and then with regard to the rest of the world. And it is really the Russian strategy to try to put those other things on the table. That's the reason they wanted a singular meeting, Trump and just Putin, because in reality, the Russians argue that there are much more important things for them to discuss than Ukraine. It's just a small matter. Well, that's unless you're a Ukrainian or a European, and your worry is that not only, well, first of all, your worry is for all the people that they killed and civilians that they killed. How about the 19,500 children that Russia is holding? And as I pointed out last night, I hope this is at the top of the agenda along with the ceasefire. I want the world to know that the world has even though they oppose his Putin's taking of Ukraine, they really have no sense of how evil communism is, and Putin's kidnapping of 19,500 children in order to feed a human trafficking, child trafficking system is perverted, gross, evil, and horrible, but not out of character for Putin, for Xi Jinping, for the Ayatollah, or for people that are evil despots. That's now you're looking at some of the children that were taken. The reality is, here, if you want to take another, here's another group of children, Ted, that you can show them. This is a group of children that are at a school in I think near Kharkiv, if not in Kharkiv, which is bombed every day. And this is an underground school. This was built specially since the war so that these children have a chance to live. And I guess being underground also, it prevents their being taken. But this is the group of people that the Russians are preying on. The Russian army is something totally different than what you're used to. We're going to talk about that a little bit later with reference to the Ukrainian army as well. But the idea of taking children, raping women, that goes along with, what the Russian army is used to. That's the way they conduct themselves. It is not like most Western armies, including the United States. So tomorrow's meeting is, as far as President Trump is concerned, a singular one-issue meeting. Ceasefire, no ceasefire. Are you serious, Vladimir, about stopping killing people and stealing children, or aren't you? And I do hope the president very, very forcefully puts the issue of the 19,500 children on the table as well. Because I think before you can seriously sit down and talk about any kind of peace with him, he's got to stop the killing. He's got to give back the children. And the disproportionate amount of killing that he does is of civilians, particularly lately. The Ukrainians have concentrated more on the military. Well, of course, they haven't had a chance to really hit Russia very often, but their casualties, the casualties they have inflicted on Russia, and the Russian military is maybe 3 to 4 times the casualties they've had with their military. But then if you look at their casualties, civilian casualties, they're at least equal to the military casualties, which means that Putin is concentrating on civilians, which is kind of he's conducting the war pretty much like the terrorist that he actually is. So again, the ceasefire is the aim of Trump, and if he one of the columns or directly asked, and a lot of the rest kind of raised today, what would be a victory for Trump? Well, a victory for Trump would be a victory for peace. I think the victory is easily defined as a ceasefire. In fact, there's a very good argument to be made that if you get the ceasefire, don't try to negotiate an all-encompassing peace. That would require recognition of and in essence, legalizing some of, if not all of, Putin's illegal acquisition of territory that doesn't belong to him by invasion. This is the biggest invasion in Europe since Hitler. And since Hitler started eating up all of Europe. And you could end this with a ceasefire, and the ceasefire could go on for 40 years. Look at North Korea. And then that would never require you to get into the dividing up of land or any of the other things that will become enormously difficult and hard to figure out. And give Ukraine then without any restrictions, do whatever the United States, Ukraine, and NATO believe is necessary for security for Ukraine. Basically, the way the issues divide is Russia wants all of the land that they've taken, plus the maybe 10% more that they claim within 3 of the 4 provinces where they haven't taken all of the land. So they want the land that they've taken by invasion, illegal invasion, and they want the land that they that would complete a complete acquisition of the oblast or the province. The second one they haven't emphasized as much, and the second one I think is pretty obviously a negotiating position. That's going to be hard. What's going to be harder is Russia wants no security guarantees for Ukraine. In fact, they want Ukraine to lower their security, which is pretty obviously so that they can re-invade them at will. And of course, that's going to become something that actually you cannot negotiate on. I actually believe there shouldn't be a commitment from us that they will not join NATO. I don't think Russia has any right to determine who joins NATO and who doesn't join NATO. Damn, the whole thing exists in order to protect us against Russia. Why are we letting them determine who can come into NATO and who can't come into NATO? And certainly it should involve the presence of European troops with a real commitment by the United States to supply arms and to be ready, willing, and able to join that should Russia start to get aggressive again. Well, we have with us, I believe, right, Ted? We have with us from the White House, Kara Castronova, who the president's still there. He doesn't leave until tomorrow morning. And it was a pretty busy day today. So what happened, Kara? You got a great question. We saw that. We were cheering for you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I was here all day at the White House. It was a very busy day, obviously, for the president and for everybody in the press. You saw the earlier press conference that the president did in the Oval Office. I actually got to be in there, which was exciting, and got two questions. The first question had to do with Social Security. As you know, today the president was signing, and I have my notes here, a proclamation in the Oval Office recognizing the 90th anniversary of Social Security, which was originally enacted in 1935 on this day. And he committed to always defending Social Security and praised his administration's efforts in making the program stronger and more resilient. So after he signed the proclamation, he took questions, and I was the second person to get a question, which was how frustrating it is that Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders continue to fearmonger the elderly. And I experienced this, Mr. Mayor, with my own family, a lot of Democrats who are literally living in terror because the mainstream media keeps lying to them and telling them that the president is going to take away Social Security. So this is a common fear that the elderly have, which is obviously baseless. So please take a listen to my question that I asked the president today and hear his response.
What it does, it makes it totally secure and powerful for the people that are on it and need it. And we're very proud of the job he's done, one of the best.
Kara Castronova from LindellTV. How are you today, sir? Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren continue to peddle the lie and the claim that you're trying to cut Social Security, despite your repeated promises to protect it. Why do you think they keep pushing this misinformation and literally terrorizing the elderly in America that sadly keep watching the very misleading mainstream media?
I love your question. I should have called you almost first, but I love his questions also, almost. But it's such a good question. It's so vicious what they do. Elizabeth Warren said she was an Indian. We call her Pocahontas. She's a liar. She lied her whole career. Based on the fact that she was an Indian, she was able to get into certain colleges, get certain jobs, get into certain universities to work there. She's a liar and a mean person. She's a nut job. I watched her the other night. She's all hopped up endorsing a communist in New York City. And she was all excited and jumping up and down. She's got to take a drug test. She really does. She's got to take a drug test. There's no way somebody can act that way and be normal. What she's done to our financial institutions, she destroys people. You know that you had a lot of great banks in the Midwest and banks that loaned to farmers and others, and they went out of business. She put them out of business. Stone cold mean. Banks that were open 150 years, family banks that supplied the farmers and manufacturers and others, and she put them out of business. She's a mean, horrible human being. Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders. I don't mind him so much. He's just a liberal guy, very liberal guy. He's a wacky guy. He's still sharp. I gotta tell you, you know, he's 86 or 87 or something. He's still sharp. You compare that to Joe Biden, it's, you know, sort of what happened. So I don't mind Bernie Sanders. With him, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy, he's a nasty guy.
So that went on, Mr. Mayor, for about 3 more minutes, and it was rather entertaining, to say the least. And then I went on to ask the president a question, which I knew you'd appreciate, how crime statistics are being obviously cooked here in D.C. Explosive reports have come out that the police actually are, cooking the books when it comes to crime to fit a political agenda, which is obviously putting people's lives in danger. So that's what I asked the president second. I actually got to ask the 2 questions today, so please take a listen to my second question to President Trump in the Oval Office.
Concerning reports about crime statistics, police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in D.C. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation right now. They are giving us phony crime stats, just like they gave other stats in the financial world, but they're phony crime stats. And Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city. I mean, I say that. You're going to have virtually a crime-free city. And These are strong men, but the criminals are strong men and women, but they're strong men. And these are people that don't play games. We're not playing games. These are criminals we're dealing with. And they treated people. They took one of the people that worked for us the other day. You saw the beating, the pounding, 10 against 1. And they pounded the hell out of him. He's lucky to be alive. He's barely, almost killed. And we're not going to have that happen.
So
Well,
there you have it.
I mean, that was a really good question, because I think they've been playing around with those numbers. It doesn't make any sense to anybody in Washington, D.C. who's frightened to go out that crime is all the way down.
Right. And the president said they're being investigated. So, I mean, I don't know your thoughts, Mr. Mayor. I know that obviously you're an expert on this. Can they be prosecuted if they are indeed cooking the books when it comes to crime and it has to be putting people's lives in danger in some way?
Well, if they're actually cooking the books, it would also interfere with their ability to reduce crime, because
Right.
crime statistics are the best thing that you have to determine where to put your police. And if they're wrong and they're inaccurate, you're putting your police in the wrong place. You don't have a good basis on which to have a strategy to fight crime. Now, tomorrow he's going off. What time is he leaving tomorrow morning in order to?
Very early.
It's a 3:30 summit, right?
It is. So he's leaving at 6:30 a.m. He's scheduled to leave the White House, I believe, at 6:30 a.m. Very early. And from what I understand, luckily the president has Air Force One. They say it's like a house sort of in the sky. I'm sure you've been on Air Force One. I have not yet. I hope to be. But, he will be able to rest at least on the plane. There's a bedroom for the president, obviously. And, so it's sort of like having a flying hotel almost, because I was a little concerned that he's leaving at 6:30. He never sleeps, obviously. Then he's meeting right away with Putin and then coming right back to Washington, D.C. shortly after the same day. So this is a president obviously doing a lot. Joe Biden would never have been able to do this ever. And you know that this is true. So the president is leaving and coming back the same day and meeting with Putin all in one day. It's absolutely crazy. It's like, I think, a 10-hour flight, Mr. Mayor. Jumping across time zones, as you know.
The only time I think he met with Putin about 4 days before Putin invaded Ukraine. So Putin took a good look at him and said, "Okay, I don't have much of a problem here with this demented old man," and then invaded Ukraine. So, well, Kara, congratulations! It was really great seeing you there. You asked very, very good questions, and thank you again for all that you contribute. It's terrific. God bless you.
Thank you for all that you contribute, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, Mr. Mayor. Have a great night and a wonderful show.
Thank you, Rudy.
Be careful in Washington. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees. Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally. Too many pharmacies and insurance companies are blocking the medications that actually work. That's why I recommend All Family Pharmacy. They give you access to treatments like ivermectin now, starting at just $2 a capsule. They also have methylene blue, hydroxychloroquine, and so much more. They're helping you stay prepared, and they dropped their prices by 25%. Also use promo code LindellTV, you save even more. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Use promo code LindellTV and get the medicine you need. With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice, speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including LindellTV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to LindellTV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
2 murders. So right now, this year, New York has 2,
Right now.
3, through the end of June. You get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code LindellTV, LINDELL 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com Lindell, promo code LindellTV. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
I'm pointing to Mike Lindell. That man suffered.
Well, this is Rudy Giuliani, and we're back with the Rudy Giuliani Show. And to just support the point that was made both by the president and Kara, we just took a look at the current up-to-date murder rates in New York and in the city that supposedly has reduced crime. Now, the one crime that is very, very hard to fudge, you can do it, but it's harder. And it's the one that I always used when I was trying to measure crime in New York, when there was a certain amount of screwing around in New York also, is the murder number. Hard to hide the bodies. And you get yourself in an awful lot of trouble if you do that. Hiding thefts and personal crimes and volume crimes, that's a lot easier. And that figures into the overall crime rate pretty significantly. And in reality, it has more of an impact on people. Even with the very heavy crime rate in Washington, D.C., it's only 100 or so people a year, a little over 100 per year, that's going to be affected by it. So how many murders in D.C. up until July 31st of this year, the year the mayor is saying, and all the Democrats are saying, and Chuck E. Cheese, the traitor Schumer, is saying, that Washington is real safe. Well, there were 101 murders in D.C. And in New York City, which is supposed to be a dangerous city, right? There are 168 murders. However, that's unbelievable. So the murder rate is at least 8 times higher in the District of Columbia than in New York City. Probably, if I do the arithmetic correctly, it's more like 9 or 10 times higher.
Well, yeah, we did the arithmetic. And
New York has 8.5 million people. D.C. has 700,000 people.
14.4 murders per 1,000 in D.C., 2 murders per 100,000 residents in New York City.
That's 7 times.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's 7 times. 7 times greater chance of being killed when you walk the streets of Washington, D.C., than New York currently. And that was roughly the same as last year. So I don't know, Mayor. I guess you reduce the crimes that just suspiciously are much easier to fudge than murder. Unless you move some of the bodies into Baltimore or something, or over into Virginia. That's a lot of murders for a little city like Washington, D.C. of 700,000. If that were New York, the number would have, if New York had the same murder rate that you had, New York would have, almost 1,000 murders already this year. Pretty close to 1,000 murders this year. But instead they have 168. And people in New York are nervous. They're nervous about that. So I don't know. I don't know why you also flip-flopped. You originally said, Mayor Bowser, that you're going to work with the government, because it seems to me, if I had a city that had, make sure I have it right here, 7 times the murder rate of New York, I would be anxious to get all the help that I could get. But you don't want to reduce crime? You don't really need help when you have 7 times the murder rate of New York City? Even if you think you brought the other crimes down, people come to the District of Columbia, from all over the world, and I bet they don't know there's a 7 times greater chance they'll be killed in D.C. than in New York. I have no idea what motivates Democrats. I really don't. Certainly saving lives and taking care of people doesn't. And it's really tragic because, Mayor, the vast majority of those victims that you see there are Black. I'm gonna just extrapolate that they're about 7 to 7.5 out of 10 are Black, maybe more. So you're just sitting by watching Black people get killed and not doing much about it. When in a little city of 700,000, you got 7 times the murders of the biggest city in the country. Whoa. Well, Trump has made it clear that if Putin refuses to end the war or go into a ceasefire, there will be very severe consequences. He was very careful not to say what they will be, which I'm sure was a very, very discreet thing to do. You don't want to go into a meeting acting like a big bully, and you want to give this guy every chance and hope that if he agrees to a ceasefire, as far as I'm concerned, there's an argument that that's the best thing that could happen, at least for a while, rather than trying to make a permanent the division of territory. Even if we do a division of territory, and I don't see how we can do it with less than about 50-50, then it should just be an acknowledgement that we're going to divide the territory this way. No military action is going to be taken to change it. But I would not give it legal recognition. I would just leave it this. Well, this is this ceasefire division, the armistice division, which is basically where we have North Korea and South Korea. So, or Taiwan, or places like that. I would not concede that this is Russian territory. The exception might be Crimea. And I think that may have been conceded already or not, but that is fruitless to really fight over. But other than Crimea, so what we're talking about, so that it's a little hard to see on the map that you have there, Ted. Or for me, I'm used to my own. I'm used to my own map here. Let's see if this is the right one. Yeah, this is the one I'd like to take a look at, because it shows you the history. It shows you the history of the land they're going to be talking about, and I think you can see it pretty well. The darkest red is the land that Putin took in 2014, when he invaded in 2014. That would be Luhansk and the tip of Donetsk. That was very, and then of course Crimea. Now the reality was Crimea was the big prize at that point, and he although his desire. I believe you can divide Putin's goals in Ukraine as follows. His maximum goal is the entire country, which he believes is part of Russia. It isn't. And just because he believes it doesn't make it legal or right. But he, and this is almost 1,000-year dispute between Russians and Ukrainians. So he believes that's part of Russia. He wants the whole thing back. And and if he can't get the whole thing back, then what he wants is a land bridge to Crimea and Crimea. So he got that. In the first war, he got Crimea, which is his minimum goal, but important. That was their former submarine base. That is a Russian ethnic population. At the time that it was taken, they probably could make a good argument that this population wanted Russia. That is not true, by the way, of that whole big other from Luhansk through Donetsk and Mariupol and right down to Kherson. Every time, even though they used to vote for the Ukrainian pro-Russian candidate as opposed to the Ukrainian pro-Western candidate pretty strongly in that area. They don't want to be, even before he invaded, every time they were polled, they want to remain separate country. Now it's off the charts. So you look at Kharkiv up there in the north. Kharkiv is the city as I know the best, and I talk about it all the time. Kharkiv was probably, aside from Crimea, in 2013, Kharkiv was probably the most pro-Russian city in Ukraine, meaning every time there was an election, they'd vote for the pro-Russian Ukrainian candidate. Putin, when he invaded in 2014, attacked Kharkiv, which the mayor found to be an absolute outrage because he probably could have negotiated for it. Well, they turned against Russia. They fought them off. They're very proud of the fact that their militia defeated the Russians and kept them out. And you know that Russia has probably used more resources to try to take Kharkiv than anything. Now, why would they want Kharkiv? It's not in that like golden area of land bridge, although I think they'd like to have their land bridge look something like this. Or, they're trying to get Sumy up here. Maybe something like this. Hold it. We'll get it. Maybe something like that. All this here. They'd like all that. Well, they didn't get that. Kharkiv fought them off. There's a lot of Kharkiv is destroyed right now. I've talked to people there recently. And, but I mean, he's given up. Notice he didn't take another shot at Kharkiv. He's, right now, what he's trying to add to is down here. He's trying to take over these areas down here. That's the extra area that he wants right here. And he wants that for nothing. He didn't capture it. He wants that as part of the negotiations. That's on the table half the time when they put out their demands. That's pretty obviously a negotiating position. I don't even think I'd spend any time on that, and I sure as hell wouldn't give anything away for it. But that's the reality of where we stand right now. So they should not be discussing that tomorrow. I don't think they will. I think even if they get to the point of ceasefire, that's going to be something that he's going to want to bring Ukraine into, because they're eventually going to have to make a tough decision. Do they give away some of their sovereign territory or not in order to get peace? And I don't like the idea of giving Russia anything, because it just rewards them for having violated international law. But if we're talking about, in order to end this, giving them half of what they acquired and half of the mineral-rich areas, and we get the other half of the mineral-rich areas, then that's a deal I think eventually can be made. Let's see, though. Let's get past tomorrow first. And let's not forget that there are, I don't want you to forget this number. Do not forget this number. There it is. Put it up there, Ted. That's the number of children, at least, that are being held and that were kidnapped by Putin. There are people who believe that number may be as high as 100,000. That's the number they can document. I think it's actually 19,558, if we want to be exact. You give those kids back, Putin. If not, we should starve you out of office. Gorbachev once wrote that Ronald Reagan spent them into oblivion. I think we should spend you into being overthrown if you don't give those kids back. That's as important as the ceasefire. Europe has, in the conversation and the meeting they had yesterday, at least this is a readout from it. Here are the 5 things that Europe thinks are important, that we don't vary at all at this point from the current lines, and don't negotiate lines. That we make it clear that there are going to have to be security guarantees. We make it clear that Ukraine has to participate. The United States should make it clear that we're going to participate in the security. And of course, there should be a ceasefire. That's essentially the 5 things that the European leaders meeting with Zelensky yesterday conveyed to the president, and he described it as a very, very good conversation. I don't have any reason to believe he doesn't agree with that. And I'm going to add the 19,500 children. There is an article I commend to you in the New York Post about the Ukrainian army and the difference between why they were so successful at the beginning of the war and why they are having trouble right now. And a lot of it is that as they moved into more long-term regular army, and they're basically very much like the Soviet or Russian army. They were trained, a lot of them were trained by Russians and Soviets, and it's a top-down army. It has very little ingenuity. It has very little acting on its own. There is very little care about the lives of the soldiers. They'll waste them, unlike any American. I mean, American generals, for time immemorial, are very concerned about, how many men are they going to lose, and how many? What's the numbers? What's the number of casualties? Even if they have a victory, if they have tremendous casualties, they're very affected by that, and they try to win with the least amount of lives lost. Whereas the Russians don't really give a damn. But you can look at the numbers that they've lost in this war. Now it's hard to get actual numbers, right? It's hard to get the actual numbers. And so I'm going to go from outside organizations that the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, they say the Ukrainian forces have suffered 400,000 casualties and 100,000 dead. I think that's military, not civilians. I think. Yes. They call it Ukrainian forces, so I think we're talking about the military. Meanwhile, the Russians are approaching 1 million total casualties and 250,000 of them dead. So that's quite a bit more. But of course, Russia is almost four times bigger than Ukraine. So we have a situation similar to New York and Washington, D.C. You could say that per capita, that's a bigger hit on Ukraine than it is on Russia. And on both sides, there are very few volunteers nowadays. The Soviets are scraping the bottom of the barrel. That's why they had to go to North Korea. Thank you. And as we pointed out yesterday, they're using the contract soldiers to a very large extent on the front lines. They pay them what would be considered for them huge amounts of money to die. And they lose them as if they're just pawns.
Bless you.
And unfortunately, a lot of the Ukrainian command, the older command, is like that. Here's the good news. They realize that, and they're making a transition to their younger officers who weren't trained under the Soviet system and have more of a sense that they can't fight the same way as the Russians because the Russians outnumber them. So they have to be like an army in their home territory usually is. They got to be smarter. Their knowledge of the population and the territory has to at least count 2 to 1 over the other side.
Mayor.
They have to be enormously strategic and cunning. And like the American revolutionaries, a large reason for our winning is they were fighting on our territory. It's tough to defeat a country that's of any decent size if it has a halfway decent army in their own land. And even the acquisitions they've made now are rather small and can be reversed.
Did some of these older Ukrainian soldiers, did they fight with the Soviet army pre-1991?
I think they were a little too old to have fought with them, but a lot of them were trained during the Soviet era, like the senior officers,
like from the 80s,
and
right?
And those people have trained like the first generation of new officers. So you don't get until you get to the younger people, you don't get to someone, and it's not as if they're doing it on purpose. This is what they were taught. It's like, I mean, being a soldier, you learn rules and you learn a way to fight, and you end up with a certain ethic or not. And the Russians are well known for wasting human life. And they're also well known for being barbarians. They rape and they pillage and they're animals. Some of the soldiers, not just the communists at the top. Now, in the Second World War, of course, one of the reasons it took them so long to get to Berlin is they had to do an awful lot of raping and stealing in order to get even with the Germans. Except they were doing it in Eastern Europe, not in Germany. They arrived in Germany rather late. So damn late, they never should have gotten East Berlin, but that's another story. Had that happened, we might not even be here today talking about this craziness. You should know in Lithuania, which is another one of my favorite countries, because my daughter-in-law comes from Lithuania. Lithuania has become really a hero country. They're being economically really, really hit hard by China because they stand up to China more than anyone. They just have no desire to do any business with anyone that's close to being a communist. They suffered too much under communism. And if you ever read The Hunt for the Red October, you'd know why the admiral was a Lithuanian Soviet and therefore decided to turn over their new submarine to the Americans. But the Lithuanians are teaching the kids a defense against drones to counter the Russians if the Russians decide to come into Lithuania. The good news for that area is that Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which are not always together, Estonia being the most likely to be favorable to Russia, Lithuania being the least likely to be favorable to Russia. Estonia is now leading the coalition against Russia. So when we say that Putin has won, those who hate Trump like to say that. I don't know in the big picture if Putin has really won. He has gotten, well, even and I don't think he should walk out with that territory that he has. But even if he were to walk out with that territory that he has, I think what he's lost is much greater than that. And I'm not just talking about the 250,000 troops and the million casualties. What I'm talking about is he had pretty good relationships with Europe. One of his biggest customers for oil was Germany, gone. The rest of Italy, gone. Now, some of the other countries didn't do business with him, but Germany and Italy had pretty good relationships with him. Those are completely destroyed now. Estonia, people in Lithuania were always worried about Estonia having a fondness for Russia. Boy, you don't have that anymore. Right in Ukraine, you have Kharkiv that was very favorable to Russia. Now they're fighting them to death. They've united Europe against them. Europe is tougher on them than we are. So we're getting pushed by Europe to be tougher. That wasn't true before. It wasn't true at all. Also, they've got their relationship with China sort of at the breaking point. I don't know how much more China is going to want to fund of this. And also, China is now beginning not only to get sanctions because of China, but some of the European countries are sanctioning China because they're supplying so much money to Ukraine. So China's got to be getting tired of Putin's escapade. At first, I think China thought Putin was going to walk in and just take Ukraine like that. It also has to give Xi Jinping a pause about going into Taiwan. I don't know, you think Taiwan is more ready for war than Ukraine was? I do. And it's a tougher situation. You got to do an amphibious landing. So tomorrow, we'll see. The other big controversial issue, which shouldn't be, is the DC police takeover. We just pointed out to you that the lodestone for really figuring out where the heck you are in crime when they don't have a good, competent CompStat system, meaning very accurate numbers, is the murders. because it's hard to hide the bodies. And the murder rate indicates that things are out of control in D.C. If there's a 7 times greater chance of being murdered in D.C. than in New York, things are out of control, believe me. It's hard to argue against that. And what the president is doing is absolutely necessary. It's completely legal, at least for 30 days. It can be extended if he declares a national emergency. And I think there's an inclination he might do that. And I really am very disappointed in the mayor, who when she was first presented with this, said that she was going to work with it to try to help the people. Anything to help the people. Her original statement was she wanted to see how to make the most of the additional support. Now her statement is, this is a time where community needs to jump in, and we all need to do what we can in our space, in our lane, to protect our city and to protect our autonomy. No, I think protecting lives is more important than your autonomy, Mayor. Gee, do you have your priorities reversed? And who the hell twisted your arm on that one? Which Democrat bum came to you and had you double-cross your city? I can't imagine when you've got 7 times the murders in New York, you're turning down help. Did you turn this down on January 6th too? Huh? Yes. Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes.
And so did the architect of January 6th, Pelosi, and her Hollywood daughter.
Yeah, they were there with the camera crew.
You go from how to make the most of the additional office support to we got to protect our autonomy and throw them out. Well, you can't. Title 32 is clear as hell, maybe after 30 days, but you can't right now. So why not work with it and see if you can save some lives? Gee, think that's more important than autonomy or the Democrat Party? Well, obviously it isn't, because your party is getting people killed, particularly black people, all over the country. Doesn't seem like those lives mean anything to you. We'll have to see if the president goes ahead and extends this. Rich Lowry has described D.C. as an overregulated and inefficient state-supported economy of social workers. They're all on the tit, on the big tit, the big government tit. When I was the mayor, Marion Barry was the mayor, and I appeared on Saturday Night Live with him. Maybe we'll show you that tomorrow night. When Marion Barry was caricatured by Tracy Morgan.
Got to see that.
And Tracy Morgan barged in my interview and tried to sell me drugs.
That's funny.
He got caught for selling drugs. The mayor.
Yeah.
And then he came back and got elected to the council.
He's a character.
I mean, I don't know how they sat by then and let those scoundrels run the city that all the congressmen and senators were in. It was worse than now.
Yeah, right. It's absurd.
I mean, Bowser may be too much of a politician, but she's certainly not Marion Barry.
Right. She actually started off okay, kind of, saying nice things about Trump, but then I think she got
How
pressured.
about the man who used a Subway sandwich to attack a federal officer? He called them fascists. I wonder where he got that name. From the Democrats. The Democrats are encouraging attacking ICE officers.
Right, and we should have that.
This is about as clear a case of the 830% more attacks on Border Patrol, ICE agents and all. It's clearly because of the Democrat rhetoric.
You see it? There it is. There's a video. Here it is. And there's some more news on this. And then he starts running.
Now, that wasn't just, that was a very, very nasty assault.
Yeah, you can't do that. And by the way, this guy, it's come to find out, works for the Department of Justice. Currently, he was just fired. So I shouldn't say.
What does he do for the Department of Justice?
Let's see if we can get some more information. But we
Give away
learned.
statistics to the criminals?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was.
Maybe he helps to fix the crime statistics in D.C. Sean Charles Dunn.
He was a trial attorney at the Department of Justice.
Do you know what he did?
He was a trial attorney for the Department of Justice.
Oh, he's a trial attorney. I bet he won't be disbarred like me.
Yeah, right. You know what, Mayor? That's another good point.
I have drunk drivers who kill people who were practicing law.
We gotta remind me. How do we get
All
that?
I did is represent my client
All right, we gotta
really, really well. Well,
stick with us.
tomorrow night we'll know the answer to whether Putin is going to agree to a ceasefire or we're going to have serious consequences. It's one or the other. Seems to me it's a yes or no. And I think certainly by the time we come on, we'll know the answer to that. We'll be watching it all day. Maybe we'll even go live at some point if you guys want to listen on X. So keep posted and see if we're on X at around 3:30 or 4. But we'll certainly be on by 8 and 7 on X also and LindellTV. And we're going to go over to X now and continue our analysis not only of that, but the Obama conspiracy and some of the other things that are going on that they'll hide from you. So let's pray for the president tonight and all the people whose lives are at risk. God bless America.